Okay, so kind of the final part that we're going to be covering in these exponent rules is raising a quotient to a power. We've raised a power to a power, and that's when we multiply. So we have what do we do when we multiply the same base? X squared times x to the fourth. Well, we add those, right? X to the sixth. What do we do when we divide those? X squared over x to the fourth. Well, we subtract those, 2 minus 4. So that would be -2, which would then equal 1 over x squared. All right, we've done a power to the power. So what if we do, x squared raised to the fourth power? Well, we know that that is multiply. So that would be x to the eighth. So now we're doing a quotient raised to the power. All right, so we're going to be multiplying basically the outside exponent, whatever is on the outside of this, by all the exponents on the inside. All right, and then we go from there. So we do 3 times, remember that imaginary 1, and 3 times that 3 over there, which would be 4 to the third over x to the ninth. All right, so this would be, remember our imaginary 1, this would be x to the third over, and then 3 times that 2, which would be y to the sixth power. So we're just multiplying all of those together. All right, so we talk about now if we have negative, there's 2 ways that we can go about doing it. One would be simplifying the inside first, but I'm actually going to well, I guess I can show both. One would say, actually, I'm going to multiply everything by the negative exponent first, and then we'll simplify it at the end. So it's going to be a longer step. We could ignore this for right now and do all of our simplification there, but I am going to just focus on the outside first to get rid of the parentheses and simplify it more from there. So if I look at this -2, and again, there's our imaginary 1 by the 2 and our imaginary 1 by the 3, I'm going to multiply a -2 by all of those little numbers and rewrite the bases. So this would be 2 to the -2 power, because -2 times 1. And then this top one, x to the -2 times -3, or +3, which would be -6. -2 times -2. And you would be doing these on your calculators, right? That makes it a +4. 3, now I'm down here, and I'm still taking this -2 and multiplying it by all of these little numbers, but I'm just writing them on the bottom here. So this would be 3 to the -2, 6 times -2, so that would give us x to the -12. And then y here, we got this 2 here by this -2, that would be y to the -4. So you're using your Desmos calculator to do all of those multiplications. So now we are going to simplify our ones with the same base. So this 2 and this 3 are not the same base, so we're going to kind of ignore that for right now. So let's look at the rest of this problem. We have an x, we have a -6 minus a -12, because remember, now we're dividing. So -6 minus a -12, that gives us a +6. So that is x to the +6. Now let's look at our y's. We have a y, and then we have, let's see here, 4 minus a -4. So make sure you're putting those 2 negatives in there. That's going to be an 8. All right, so notice that I didn't do anything with this 2 and the 3 because they don't have the same base. We can't do anything with those. So that 2 would stay up here, and that 3 is still down at the bottom, right? So now what do we notice? We have 2 negative exponents. Really all we need to do is flip-flop these now, because we want to make those positive. So this 2 will go on the bottom and become positive, and that 3 will go on the top and become positive. So we make the 3 squared on the top, the x and the y stay. And that 2 to the -2 will become a 2 squared on the bottom. Remember, we just move it and it becomes positive. Again, this is good. You can leave it at that. If you want to be great, 3 squared is 9, x to the 6, y to the 8th, and 4 on the bottom. All right, both of these are acceptable. I know it's a lot of work, but we're just multiplying all of these by all the little numbers that are on the top. Okay, so on the back of your notes, we're going to do one kind of big practice problem, and you'll see the pattern that we are dealing with. So I'm going to make a fraction. I'm going to do x, y, and z. So let's do x to the maybe the second power, y to the negative second power, and z to the fifth power. And underneath, we're going to put the same basis because we're going to simplify at the end. So I'm going to say, let's say x to the, let's say the 10th, y to the 4th, and we'll say z to the negative second power. And I'm going to raise this whole thing. Now let's just square it. We'll raise it to the second power. Okay, let's go through our process here. This 2 on the outside, before we do anything, it's going to be multiplied by all the little numbers, all the exponents with each of these bases. So let's go ahead and rewrite. I'm going to draw my fraction bar. And again, 2, we're just multiplying everything by 2. So again, if you're not comfortable with the math yet, and make sure you're using your calculator. So I have the calculator up here. So 2 times 2, we know that's 4, right? 2 times 2 would be 4. So that's going to be x to the 4 on top. X to the 4th. I don't think this is going to work like I thought, so I'm just going to, I would assume that you guys are going to use calculators. I'm just going to do it in my head. Okay, this y is going to be negative 2 times 2. When you type that into your calculator, you'll get negative 4. Okay, we have z to the 5th squared, so that is going to be z to the 5 times 2, which would be 10. Now I'm going to look at these bottom numbers, and I'm still raising it to that second power. This would be x to the 10 times 2, which would be 20. Y to the 4 times 2, which that would be 8. And then negative 2 times 2 would be negative 4, so z to the negative 4. All right, so now that we got rid of the exponents, or the parentheses, I guess we should say, now we can go about and do our subtractions. So we're going to write this without the fraction bar, but we're going to combine our bases. Remember, if we're dividing just the common bases, we subtract the exponents. So this would be 4 minus 20 for the x. So that would be negative 16. Y, negative 4 minus 8. So negative 4 minus 8 gives us negative 12. So we have y to the negative 12. And then 10, or z would be 10 minus a negative 4. 10 minus a negative 4. That's 14. So z to the 14. All right, and then the last step is putting this x and this y on the bottom to make them positive. So our top will be z to the 14, and the bottom will be x to the 16, y to the 12. And that is our final answer. So have this written down on your notes as a reference to. And again, this is, we're not, I know it's cumbersome, but it's one step at a time. Then we have to divide, which we subtract the exponents, which was the skill we talked about the other day. And then we are also going back to the 8.1 where we make these positive by putting them to the opposite side of the fraction bar.